the name of your Lord, who created man from a clinging clod. Decide, for your Lord is most generous. I have recited first three verses of Surah Alaq from Holy Quran. And in the words of our very beloved Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, O Allah, your Lord, who created man from a clinging clod. Decide, for your Lord is most generous. I have recited first three verses of Surah Alaq from Holy Quran. And in the words of our O Allah, indeed I ask you for beneficial knowledge and good halal provisions and actions which are accepted. Assalamu alaikum everyone and very good morning. Hope you all are doing well. I am Khizra Javed, President Society for Skincare. I, on the behalf of Department of Dermatology, Society for Skincare and the University of Faisalabad, welcome you all to the second edition of International Conference on Dermal Sciences with the theme Skin and Cosmeceuticals, Production, Practice and Regulation. Let's begin our day with our plenary session. We are very glad to have 7 speakers from 6 different countries. Let's begin our first talk, which is about bleached girls, India and its love for the light skin. And for that, we have a speaker, Dr. Neha Mishra. Dr. Neha is a legal professional for over 13 years, currently an associate professor of law and associate dean at Jindal Global Law School, OP Jindal Global University, India. She has previously worked as a founding director of School of Legal Studies at Riva University, Bangalore. She has provided training workshops in police officers and prosecutors in India. Her research focuses on human rights laws, colorism, post-colonial feminist studies, genders and child rights, rehabilitations and exclusions and its intersections. Her opinion and contributions can be seen in Times Magazine, BBC, Asia Times, Times of India's, and as well as international academic journals. We are very honored to have you here with us, Dr. Neha. Hello, Dr. Neha. How are you? Dr. Neha, can you hear me? Sir, please unmute Dr. Neha. Ma'am, please unmute your mic.
Yes, good morning. A very good morning to all of you. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We
very
are
well.
also very honored to have you. I request you to please start your session.
Thank you so much. First of all, I must extend a heartiest congratulations to the whole team of ICDS. Also, I'm very happy to be here for the next year of second international conference on dermal sciences. I was here on the first one itself, and it was a memorable experience. So congratulations on holding a conference on such a vital theme. I must extend my gratitude to Professor Tanzila Khalid, for organizing this, and Miss Sana Arshad, who has been a wonderful coordinator. Thank you for having me here. So today I would be speaking about bleached girls with respect to Indian jurisdiction. Now, I also see my legendary expert and world expert on colorism here, Dr. Ronald E. Hall, with whom I had the opportunity to co-author one of the paper, which was published very widely on the topic of bleached girls in India. Now, today I would like to just take that study forward and discuss with you the research from that 2017 till now that I have been conducted in Indian jurisdiction. Now, India, of course, as well as Asian countries. So I do talk about the global south here. It is not, colorism is not necessarily an issue which is permeating only Indian soil. Of course, the similar situation can be seen in Pakistan. The similar situation can be seen in Indonesia, other Asian countries, even in China, a lot of African subcontinent, so global south, I can very easily say. Now, when you talk about skin bleaching is a very common phenomenon. Every girl who enters college, and as young as when they are in their class 11th and class 12, they start using bleaching cream in India very commonly. And this skin bleaching is a monthly procedure that most of the girls undertake. Through my study, I also came across that nowadays, amongst the metropolitan cities, that is, that you see in Bombay, in Delhi, in Chennai, in southern Indian states, as well as the northern Indian states, where you see difference in skin tone. Northern Indian, you will find slightly fairer skin tone, men as well as women. However, amongst the metrosexual men, bleaching is a phenomena that is taking precedence. So it is no longer now restricted to only the females. However, amongst females, once the girls are reaching their high school, I saw amongst my study that there is approximately 70% of the girls who are using bleaching creams. Now, this is a very dangerous phenomena because UN, if you look at some of the reports that UN has published in its portal, they say that a lot of bleaching creams have corticosteroids, and they have something called as um, topical corticosteroids, which are very commonly found in fairness products as well as bleaching products. And it has such a direct impact on skin thinning, acne, and facial hair growth, and many other side effects, including skin cancer. If that is the case, and then through my study, I saw that if approximately 70% of the girls from metropolitan cities as early as high school level are using skin bleaching cream, we can very well understand that this is a serious problem. Now, why are they doing it? Again, one of the factor can be seen from a wonderful study from my colleague and friend Dr. Ronald E. Hall, who has coined the term bleaching syndrome, whom we have as a speaker, so I would not be speaking on that. A wonderful concept where he has provided enough and ample statistics that why bleaching syndrome takes place. But I would be talking about the problem that is permeating the Indian jurisdiction as well as the Asian jurisdiction with respect to bleaching creams. Now, amongst the pandemic, during the pandemic 2 years, there was also a movement, a worldwide movement of Black Lives Matter that started taking up pace because of the unfortunate death of George Floyd. Now, when that took place and universally there was a whole movement about Black Lives Matter, this campaign of dark is beautiful also picked up pace in India. And people and young generations started objecting to the use of bleach because in our popular media, skin color and fair unicentric ideal of beauty have been shown since time immemorial. Now, again, I would like to quote here that there is a study which has come up with a report. There is a very recent report called as India's Fairness Cream and Bleach Market Overview, which covers the statistics from 2018 to the anticipated 2023. And the report states that the market revenue of fairness product in India are anticipated to be more than 5,000 crore by the year 2023. And that is a huge market. Now, even, and this is very, as a law professor, this is very worrisome for me because we have clear statistics which, on one hand, show that there are certain bleaching products and fairness products which are over the counter available. You don't need prescription for that, and they are using topical corticosteroids which are directly linked to the study of skin cancer, acne, skin thinning, facial hairs, such kind of side effect. As well as we know that the market is so large that there is a big lobby of manufacturers of these skin products which are playing a very big role to ensure that these products do not get banned. So in India in 2013, again, there was a regulation which completely stopped the the usage of certain advertisements which were discriminatory. In Indian Constitution, again, we talk about equality in Article 14, which talks about that there will be no discrimination on the basis of caste, class, gender, language, race, etc. It does not uses the word color because color is not seen as a problem. But then again, one factor that permeates the caste and gender and economics, as well as the region and religion, is skin color. So, colorism is very existence. It is discrimination on the basis of skin color, and a lot of the population amongst Indian fora, you can see, are leading and moving towards more and more bleach usage, which is very, very dangerous phenomena. As I said, this is not just restricted to women, it is definitely permeating through the men, and the usage of skin color, uh, lightening the existing skin color is becoming ever so more. Again, there is a basic link that you also see between poverty and colorism in India specifically. There is a reason that you don't see in popular media people who are darker skin as the anchors, as the news reporters, as the main leads in the serials or movies, etc. And generally, they are reserved to do either the side roles, or generally, you stereotype them as something which is polluted or villains. Now, that culture again has a very deep root, which is connected to the history of, colorism in India, which is quoted in one of my previous studies of 2015, that is Indian colorism. So, again, you need to, the want to assimilate into the powerful Eurocentric ideal of the ruler class on the basis of skin color pushes a lot of population to use such products, because now they can just buy a 50 rupees cream of Fair and Lovely, and then again trump their limiting factor, which could have been either coming from a lower class or coming from a poorer household or probably a weaker gender. Because even though some of the marital sites in India, we do arranged marriages, unlike the Western countries, there used to be advertisements asking for fair bride. Now, a lot of the websites during pandemic, again, when this whole campaign of Black is Beautiful was going on, said that all right, we are going to remove these discriminatory marks from our matrimonial advertisements. However, people still don't refrain to ask for fair brides and fair groom. So, what is the rejected lot? The darker skinned lot. And in this market, of course, then the only resort is, even at the cost of your skin cancers or side effects, the girls and boys would want to escape that by using skin bleaching. So skin bleaching is becoming a ever so permeating problem. And in case I was given 15 minutes, I am not too sure if I have transgressed my time limit. But again, this is something that I feel is very important to deal with. Lastly, I would just like to touch upon the subtlety of bleaching product, and we should not be fooled by the fairness market. First thing is acceptance of that beauty is diverse, acceptance of diversity. I think because we do, a lot of the Asian countries have been in the control of colonial masters for a very long time. We have not come out of that slave mentality yet to again assimilate or to think of a superiority, to attach superiority with light skin. So that is very important. What we must be very wary of, the subtle messages. So it was only last year that Fair and Lovely, which is a very popular brand from Unilever, changed its nomenclature from Fair and Lovely to Glow and Lovely. And now it writes, it benefits and helps in pink glow. So while Fair and Lovely now has removed the term fair from its box, it still is giving the same subtle idea of that it is going to give you glow and then make you lovely. So automatically it is rejecting and discarding all the other skin tones by saying that that would not be lovely. So we need to understand that even when such measures are taken, because of the sheer voluminous nature of the financial criteria, it is such a big market. By 2023, 5,000 crore rupees of business within Indian jurisdiction itself. We need to be very aware that they are still selling the same idea, but with a subtle uh, packaging. So again, that requires mass sensitization and mass acceptance of over and over changing the narrative of acceptance of diversity. And that narrative change requires such conferences and then spreading out the word of acceptance of diversity. I think that is the only way we can fight the menace of bleaching within the Asian and global South jurisdiction. So, with this, I would be very happy to take questions or discussions if anybody would have from me. And thank you very much for listening. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, ma'am. This was really very informative session. Your talk will really help in breaking the stereotypes about the dark color and the fair color. If we have any questions, you may ask now. So we have the first question for you.
Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, my question is, why do people desire a westernized concept of beauty even after the colonialism?
Thank you so much for this question. This beats me. I think the younger generation should tell me that why is it. See, I will just tell you that the statistics that I have taken are coming from different states within India. Now, irrespective of the economic standing of a household, irrespective of the education level of a particular group of samples that I took, irrespective of the religion and irrespective of the regional placement, throughout, at least in my country, throughout country, I saw that the desire to date fairer girls and fairer boys also amongst girl was something very universal. And that is probably because over time and again you are only seeing those images. So a child, when they are growing up, is made to believe that that is good and that is beautiful. And that is a very tough job, because we in our small groups can believe that yes, this is something which is very very bad. What I'm saying is that there is already a white lies report of CNN. There is report by UN. So there are widespread reports, but we don't see that these reports are being discussed in the mainstream media. Mainstream media is being funded by the conglomerate of the beauty ideals and the fairness market, which is so large. So when a child is growing up and seeing that white petite Barbie doll and playing with it, and then seeing every single time in movies that this is what the hero is desiring because the actress is very fair, or anybody who is even wearing Indian dress is very fair, that is what you feel is beautiful. And every dark person is made to believe, and you see those images as something which is very very bad. That influences our brain, and we want to become like that. And the easiest way to do is to use bleaching product and fairness market. And we have to break that stereotype. Of course, historically, that do come from always attaching superiority and power with lighter skin color tone. And there is an there is also a presumption that if you're fair skin, you must be higher caste. If you're fair skin, you must be rich. Now, these are not necessarily facts, but these are the immediate assumption that anybody will make looking at a person on the road. So they don't know your name yet, but that perception is already made looking at a person, that yeah, this person may be very educated or very, of a higher caste. And that is again a image perception that requires to be broken with constant sensitization and changing the narrative, as I said. I don't know if I've answered you, but I've tried to given you the perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. This was really very interesting talk. Hope to see you again in the next conference.
Thank you very much for having me.
I have a note. We'll ring a bell. Respected speakers will ring a bell at 12 minutes so that we have 3 minutes for the question and answer sessions. Coming toward our next talk, we are very honored to have with us our very worthy speaker, Professor Dr. Ronald Hall, professor at social work at the Michigan State University, USA. Dr. Ronald has received a BA degree in psychology from Shaw School, MA degree in correctional sciences from the University of Detroit, MSW degree from the University of Michigan, and PhD from Atlanta University. In 2007, Dr. Hall was invited to Washington, D.C. to give a lecture on skin color. He was also an invited lecturer at the University of Oxford. Before obtaining his doctorate, Dr. Ronald enabled his professional career as a clinical social worker in the city of Detroit. His occupational role encompasses the practice of individuals and group psychotherapy with schizophrenic and manic depressive clients. Dr. Hall advocated the notion of skin color among the peoples of color as a critical dynamic related to mental health. Dr. Hall devised the bleaching syndrome to explain the discrimination among the peoples of color and identity across the lifespan as an alternative biracial identity model. Dr. Hall's skin color research comprises more than 200 co-authored publications, interviews, presentations pertaining to the issue. On November 2021, Dr. Hall lectured by Zoom at the first international conference on dermal sciences on the psychosocial impact of colorism at the University of Faisalabad, Pakistan. Based on his exceptional services to end this discrimination based on skin color in his country and worldwide, the University of Faisalabad awards him with the TUF Excellence Award. Hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Sir, we have dispatched your award and you will receive it by Monday, inshallah.
Thank you very much.
Now, sir, I request you to please start your session on the bleaching syndrome among the people of color.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for inviting me and bestowing such a prestigious award from such a prestigious institution. I've been studying the issue of colorism and skin color for about 30 years in my life. And if there's anything that I have written or that I've spoken of that inspires someone to contribute or join this effort, I will consider my work to have been worthwhile. As non-European people, I think it's our responsibility to see that this issue of colorism is resolved so that those who come after us can live lives free of the negativity brought by colorism. The issue of colorism is something that evolved over a period of time for me. And I grew up a child of the 60s when there was a lot of protests, a lot of boycotts going on, particularly in the US, Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, etc. And the talk that we would hear had pertained to racism. And I wanted to try to study this issue in a different context. And I realized at some point that while we talk about race and racism, we actually act upon skin and skin color. So that caught my attention. When I worked at the mental health clinic before joining the academy, I would see people in psychotherapy, and I'd want to discuss the functions or dysfunctions going on in their immediate family. And somehow the issue of colorism kept inserting itself, not on behalf of me or what I wanted to talk about, but what the clients wanted to talk about. And I realized that it was something that was very significant in people's lives, but it was seldom entered into public discourse because I think people were embarrassed to talk about it. And so what I did was I started going to the library to see if I could read up on the literature that was written about this topic. And unfortunately, in about a week or two, I had mastered all of the literature on colorism, which is just to say that there was very little that was written on the topic. So at that point, I realized I had epiphany. I realized that this was going to be my life's work. Now, we talk about bleaching creams, and Dr. Mishra was very informative in talking about the creams that some people use to lighten their skin. I began looking at some of the products, Fair and Lovely. And by the way, the question I wanted to ask Dr. Mishra, maybe she can address this a little later, if she has seen evidence of bleaching creams increasingly used by Indian men, because I know that there's a product called Fair and Lovely, and what we have now is a new product called Fair and Handsome. So I want to know if Indian men are taking advantage of these skin bleaching creams similar to women. Some of these bleaching creams are marketed primarily to people of color. Supposedly they do not exist in the US, but in fact they do. But in the US, they are marketed as something that will soften your skin, something that will make your skin smoother, because it's politically disadvantageous to sell the product as something that will lighten your skin for political reasons. But some of the ingredients contained in bleaching creams are such things as arsenic, such things as mercury. And you know that mercury has an affinity to the brain. And one of the things that disturbs me most is when women take bleaching creams that they may use on a daily basis and they're pregnant, then these toxins can reach the fetus by way of the placenta, and the result is going to be a stillbirth. Arsenic is very poisonous also. One of the most potent toxins that we know about that's in the ingredients of bleaching creams is something called hydroquinone. Hydroquinone is a carcinogen, which means it's cancer causing. Now, it strikes me as a bit odd that people who have a natural protection from UV rays vis-a-vis our melanin, we are applying concoctions to our skin that makes us susceptible to skin cancer, which is unnecessary. And I looked at some of the literature, some of the research as pertaining to the market share for bleaching creams. Bleaching creams, believe it or not, are $1 billion business globally. To be specific, the sales profits for bleaching creams per year in a given year will reach 30 billion US dollars. Now, I'm not sure how that transfers into Pakistani money or Indian money, but we know that $1 billion of anything is a lot. And that's unfortunate. The largest market for these bleaching creams are located in Asia. Ironically, the second largest market for bleaching creams are located in Africa. So I began researching this topic and talking about it. It was the subject of my dissertation. And because it's something that is politically controversial, people don't want to talk about it in public. But I got written up in newspaper articles, some of the radio shows, and most of the comments were very negative. And some of them were personal attacks on me for talking about this issue, which I think was embarrassing for a lot of people. But it was in 1990 that I was called as an expert witness to confer with a case of skin color discrimination or colorism in a case called Morrow versus the Internal Revenue Service. And in this case, you had a woman, African-American woman, who was suing another African-American woman on her job on the basis of discrimination. Now, several months ago, I read an article in a sociology journal by a professor at Harvard, and she had written an excellent, very rigorous paper in the Journal of American Sociology. And she referred to me as the expert witness for the nation's first case of colorism in Morrow versus the Internal Revenue Service. But I got her email and I sent her a note and I said, with all due respects, doctor, but that's not correct. I was the expert witness for the first case of colorism involving African Americans. And if this professor had done maybe a cursory review of the literature, there was a case a full 10 years before my case in Felix versus Manquez. And that case involved people who are referred to as Latinos. And I spent about, I don't know, last 12 years, and maybe 2016, 2017, I completed my travels around the entire world. I haven't visited every country, but I've visited every major racial population in the world. And I have not found one exception where skin color is not an issue. Now, each particular country might have its own nuanced way of expressing it, but in every country I've gone to, there is an ideal for light skin, and darker skin is denigrated. And I was shocked to see that. When I traveled to Europe, I even held focus groups and I collected surveys from persons of European descent about what they think about people of color who have this colorism issue. I work with some very, very bright, some very brilliant professors at my university who are of European descent. But one thing that I consistently find is they have no idea that this issue has been existent in the communities of color for decades. When I traveled to Japan, for example, studying colorism there, I found cases in the literature of colorism going back to the 12 and 1300s in Japan. And this was obviously prior to the arrival of Europeans. So it wasn't European influence that led to colorism in Japan, but it was something indicative of Japanese culture. So when they were exposed or interacted with European descended people, then the issue of colorism was exacerbated. And there's a saying in Japanese culture, 7 blemishes compensates. So if a woman is light skinned, if a woman is somehow deformed, a cleft palate, or some other extremity difficulty, but she's light skinned, then she's considered ideal. Light skin compensates. So when they came in contact with persons of European descent, where the issue of light skin was idealized, then it was just exacerbated among the population in Japan. And unfortunately, this is 2022. This issue is still prevalent. In China, you have the Great Wall. The idea was to separate China from the rest of the world. And there's a saying in China, in Chinese culture, that Europeans early on in its history considered persons of, Chinese considered persons of, Europeans were considered by persons of Chinese descent as red-haired barbarians. And so we've gone full circle. The idea was in building the Great Wall is to avoid red-haired barbarians from staining the purity of Chinese blood. But now we've come full circle where no longer is the European phenotype denigrated. In China, it is in fact idealized. Now you come to Korea, Chinese, Japanese, Korea, you have the same idealization for light skin. I'm not sure if Korea originally had this idealization for light skin absent European conquest or influence. I do know that Japan invaded Korea at some point in its history. It colonized Korea, and perhaps the influence for light skin in Korea comes from the influence of Japan. So in other countries, this idealization of light skin has taken place on various different kinds of reasons, but the fact of this idealization of light skin is pretty consistent throughout the entire world. So I thought about this and I tried to make some sense of it. And the more I thought about it, the more questions that were posed to myself. And it seemed to be more confusing, more intimidating to think about. But I didn't allow myself to get discouraged. One day, just sitting and thinking, and I pride myself from being able to think outside of the box. I remember in junior high school, my science teachers scolding me because I'd be looking out the window and he would think that I wasn't paying attention. But what I was doing, I was taking what he said and trying to turn it upside down in my mind and figure out a different way of approaching a subject. And in thinking about racism, it dawned on me that bleaching is something that can help me explain this issue of colorism. So I began research. I have maybe 1,500, 2,000 surveys that I collected during my travels around the world on this issue of skin color. So I realized that maybe it starts at a psychological level. So I began with the idea of the bleaching syndrome that begins at a psychological level, a sociological level, and a behavioral level. Now, I'm a therapist before I entered the academy. So I want to always be aware of how people process information, how they process their life space. And I thought about the psychological where colorism is concerned. Well, what do you think about yourself? Young girls as old as 3 or 4 years old, there have been studies done in the US with African American girls who are not even old enough to be able to articulate the issue of colorism, but they understand in something's called the doll studies that they were tested. They understand that the light doll was better than the darker skinned doll. And the darker skinned doll is a doll that looked more like them. So by the time they reach 12 or 13 years old, psychologically, they've already internalized this denigration of dark skin. And in many instances, it's much too late to be able to do something, to be effective in doing something about it. Well, that gets us to the sociological. Now, the individual has this issue of colorism, but when you talk about the group, then you have the masses of individuals thinking the same way. And unfortunately, in many of our societies, we value women for their physical attributes. They can be attractive, they can be intelligent, they can be articulate, but if they're not light-skinned, we do not give them the credit that they deserve. So women in particular spend a lot of their lifetime trying to reach this light-skinned ideal, and that covers the broad sectors of society. I find this to be indicative not only of Asian populations, not only African descendant populations. There's a people in the US called Latinos, Latino populations, and it's not always the result of colonization, although colonization is very significant. Moving from the sociological, then we have the behavioral. That is what you do. That is what you act out. And I talked about the cases, the case that I testified in Morrow versus the Internal Revenue Service. That case was an action. That case was a deliberate action. When people of different skin colors, contrasting skin colors, come in contact with one another, oftentimes you have this preconceived notion before they get to know one another as to how they should react to them. Now, in the US, most of the women who are considered attractive in the African American community have been the women, African American women, who are very light complected and have very Caucasian features. For example, The very first Black African-American Miss America was a light-skinned African-American woman with naturally green eyes. Her name was Vanessa Williams. When there are any number of gorgeous, very attractive, dark-skinned women who are just as attractive, but they don't get the same kind of attention and they don't get the credit that they deserve. So I thought about the bleaching syndrome as having a psychological, a sociological, and a behavioral aspect. And obviously, if I look at something that is problematic, that is a psychological difficulty, then you want to start thinking about a cure or some way to bring resolution to this issue. Well, I don't know that I've been able to answer that challenge yet, but I have begun to think about it, and I do have some ideas. The first thing we might want to do in resolving the bleaching syndrome is own your transgressions. Take ownership of your shortfalls. And what I mean by owning your transgressions, if we discriminate, if we denigrate on the basis of a person having a darker complexion, acknowledge that to yourself. Acknowledge that as a weakness. When I start my classes at the beginning of each semester, I approach my students and I say to them, if you are a racist student, if you are a sexist student, would you please raise your hand? I will raise my hand and maybe two other students might follow. The point I'm trying to make, when I admit that I'm a racist, when I admit that I'm a sexist, and I know that I am born and raised in a racist, sexist culture, and I say that I'm not being honest with myself. When I own my transgression and I admit that I engage in colorism, then I am amenable to a solution. I am amenable to a change. If there's something that I do that a woman considers sexist, she brings that to my attention, and I am amenable to changing, asking for suggestions as to how I could change and not be sexist. Well, maybe that's where we need to start as non-European people. First, we want to acknowledge that we engage in this colorism behavior. We need to acknowledge that we denigrate our brothers and sisters who are of a darker complexion, because that's factual. And there, I think, is enough empirical evidence to support that.
Thank you,
Secondly,
sir. Excuse me, sir. We love to hear you from more, but due to
oh, am I over my time? Okay, I want to apologize for that, but
proceeding toward
if
your
you,
question and answer sessions.
I'm open to any questions and comments, please.
So if we have any questions, you may ask now. So I've got a question for you, sir. Do you think that Eurocentric beauty standards has a part in forcing people to look a certain way?
Oh, would you repeat that question, please?
Yeah, sure. Do you think that Eurocentric beauty standards has a part in forcing people to look a certain way?
It no doubt has an impact, but I would take issue with the word force. I don't think we are forced to look a certain way. As I mentioned, my issue with accepting our transgressions, that's a choice we make. I think if we begin to value darker complexion as much as we value lighter complexion, then we have a choice as to how we want to look.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Yes, sir. Sure, sir. Please pass the mic.
Skin whitening, bleach creams are harmful. So my question is, why any country is not doing any legislation against this carcinogenic or again doing the harmful effect on the skin?
Well,
no legislation from any country, no rules to protect this one.
you know, well, first of all, I am doing everything I can to try to resolve this issue. And anytime I talk to people who are aware of this issue, I try to get them to join in the effort. But you have to take into consideration that we're working up against very very strong, very formidable power structures. Now, in a lot of African countries, Nigeria, for example, bleaching creams are illegal. There's legislation, it's illegal. And there are other African countries where you have the same. But what that has done is that has spurned an underground market. So people can't sell bleaching creams legally, they sell it illegally and still make a profit. And there's also people who can actually make bleaching creams. They get toothpaste and arsenic and they mix it together, homemade, mix it together and get the same effect. So we can continue to try, but we have to recognize that we're up against powerful business interests that think otherwise.
Another way, I'm just curious that now the trend is towards the alternative or the herbal based or organic. I mean, they are using organic compound to have no, I mean, any side effects. Once again, what about your point of view about it?
Well, if I understand your question, some of the toxic substances used in bleaching creams, arsenic, mercury,
Yeah,
and
but
hydro.
now the trend is towards the alternative or is it towards herbal based or organic, I mean, creams, which have
Oh,
no side effects.
oh, you're talking about the invention of creams that have no toxic substances.
Yes, no toxic
Well,
effects.
I would still be against that because even though that they don't have toxic substances, you take those bleaching creams for the same reason, which is to lighten your skin. So even though it's not physiologically harmful, it's psychologically harmful.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you so much, sir, for coming and joining us from all the way from
Jazra,
USA. Yes, ma'am.
Please let me
Yes,
thank
sure, ma'am.
Professor Hall. Sir, thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you with us in last year in our conference theme colorism and this time as well. And I think we need to join hands in
Yes.
fighting this mania of getting fairer.
Yes.
We have a special session in our conference today that's the power of looks, society and unrealistic beauty standards.
Yes.
But the mental well-being and the psychological well-being of people, they get into this race of becoming, conform to the standards that exist. So thank you very much.
And if I may, I'd like to also apologize. When people ask me questions about colorism, I start talking, I don't know when to stop.
We can understand that. It's your passion. And apologies on our behalf that we have to cut you down. I think
No problem.
We can always arrange a seminar with you with, a couple of hours or something like this and listen to what you have to say. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. We'll see you in the next conference, inshallah. Please welcome the chair of our session, Professor Dr. Shaukat Parvez. Dr. Shaukat is a renowned researcher and scholar with 8 patents and 85 publications to his credit. He has played a key positions including former rector at the University of Faisalabad, Chairman Ministry of Sciences and Technology Pakistan, and Director Technical at Pakistan Atomic Energy Commission. We are very honored to have you, sir, with us. Thank you so much for joining us. Moving towards our third talk, which is about green chemistry, role of catalysts as a foundation pillar. And for that, our worthy speaker is Dr. Anju Goyal. Dr. Anju is currently working as a professor and head of Department of Pharmaceutical Chemistry and Assistant Dean PhD program in Pharmaceutical Sciences at Chitkara College of Pharmacy, Rajpur, Punjab, India. She has experience of approximately 18 years in academics. She has more than 45 publications to her credit. She's a life member at APTI, IPGA, and Society of Pharmacovigilance of India, and is the member of editor and advisory board of various national and international journals. Hello, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hello, Sana. How are you?
I'm fine, ma'am. How are you?
Fine.
Ma'am, I request you to please start your session.
Yes, first of all, I would like to thank Ms. Sana Arshad for giving me an opportunity to give a talk on in this conference. Today, I am going to talk on the green chemistry, which plays a very important role in today's world. Now, as we all know, that green chemistry actually it is a emergence of organic chemistry. As we all know that organic chemistry is actually the base of pharmacy. Without the knowledge of the chemistry, we cannot understand the chemical formula of the drugs, or we cannot even synthesize any new drugs. Then, and also organic chemistry is also dealing with our daily to daily life processes, and our main key molecules like lipids, carbohydrates, proteins, amino acids are also organic in nature. Without we cannot even think of our life. Now coming then, if organic chemistry is so important in our life, then what is the main problem which is coming due to presence or existence of the organic chemistry? Actually, organic chemistry, if it is important in our life, can also be problematic, as it can cause atmospheric pollution, like it can affect the climate due to greenhouse effect or ozone layer depletion, photochemical smoke that can also be generated, and it can also pollute our water or aqueous environment, like industrial and due to industrial and urban wastes. And solid pollution is also occurring due to presence of organic chemistry. So to overcome all these problems, there is a generation of new chemistry, that is green chemistry, that is the overcome of organic chemistry only. And means green chemistry is about nothing, it is just a designing of the chemical products by means of organic compounds, or mean only organic reactions only, but without the use of risk means by reducing the use of hazardous compounds or eliminating the use or generation of hazardous substances, we can come with the important compound by means of green chemistry. Now, coming, then what is the green chemistry? And green chemistry is about, green chemistry mainly minimizes the wastage at the source, and it can create the maximum use of catalyst in place of reagents, and we can use non-toxic reagents for the synthesis of various organic compounds, and we can also use the renewable resources, and we can use solvent free or recyclable products which are environmental friendly, or we can improve the atom efficiency. Now actually green chemistry is based on mainly 12 principles. First is prevention, means sometimes what we used to do, we make the compound by using the normal green organic chemistry, but in the last we are having some type of waste which are with us, and we used to clean those waste products. But green chemistry deals that there should not be any wastage, we can minimize the use of the compounds which can lead to the wastage. So we, in this way, we can minimize the use of hazardous compounds. Next, coming to atom economy, means like in the organic chemistry reactions, we are having two to more organic compounds or organic atoms are used to synthesize organic compound. And sometimes we observe that all the compounds or all the atoms are not used in the organic synthesis. What we can do, we can make the reaction in such a way that the or atoms which are used as a reagent in the synthesis started can be used completely. They should not be left over. And whenever possible, synthetic compounds are designed to use and generate substances that passes little or no toxicity to the human health and the environment. And to design safer chemicals, the chemicals or products should be designed to affect their desired function while minimizing their toxicity. Like some of the chemicals are very hazardous. We are using the benzene, which can be cancer causing. So we can avoid the use of benzene in the synthesis of chemicals. Safer solvents and auxiliaries. The use of auxiliary substances, for example, solvent separation agents, should be made unnecessary wherever possible and innocuous when used. And we can also use the energy requirement. We can also proceed with the chemical processes for their environmental and economic impacts and should be minimized. If possible, synthetic methods should be conducted at ambient temperature and pressure, as sometimes, as we all know, that organic compounds are very, very hazardous and inflammable. Like we are using alcohol and using it not using it the room temperature, it can cause the inflammation. It can be flammable. So we can, in this way, we can protect our environment by using the non-hazardous compounds. And we can also use the recyclable starting feedstocks in place of the reagents, so that we can use them, we can minimize the use of hazardous compounds. And in this, in sometimes what we are using, like in the synthesis of piperazine derivatives, we can come across the synthesis of chemical compounds by using various steps, like 4 to 5 steps. And but we can design our reaction in such a way that only 1 or 2 steps can be completed to form a final product. Means derivatization, which is unnecessary, which is not required to us, can be minimized. We should not go for the derivatization. And we are using, sometimes we are using catalytic reagents, like reagents, benzene is used, pyridine is used sometime as a catalyst or as a solvent. But we can replace such type of reagents which can be harmful to the environment by using catalyst. And the products which are finally produced, they can be designed in the same, in such a way that the product which is left after the final completion of the reaction can be degraded or cannot be left as such. And the real-time analysis for the pollution prevention means we should have the analytical methodologies to allow for real-time analysis. Means if we are proceeding with the reaction, then we can judge time to time whether the reaction has been completed or not. If it has been completed, then we can stop at anywhere, any midpoint, so that there cannot be hazardous further. And we can also use the safer chemistry to prevent the accidental, like if we are using petroleum ether and are not taking care of the petroleum ether and some drop is left with the heating mantle, then we can see that there can be fire. So we can minimize the use of such type of organic compounds or the organic chemicals. And what are the main drivers which influences the use of green chemistry? As actually green chemistry is economical benefit, as it is having lesser capital investment and lesser operating costs. And if you're looking at the societal pressure, it is having improved public image, safer and smaller plants, pollution can be controlled. And in the case of government legislation, less or high time for the base, and the producer is reproducibility is higher. So in these main points give us the drives or provide us the drive to go for the green chemistry. Now coming to the various applications of the green chemistry, the application of green chemistry at every stage in the life cycle of a product is of particularly high importance, as we are starting from the pre-manufacturing up to the end of the sale. In the starting of, means if we are going to manufacture, before going to the manufacture, we are dealing with the pre-formulation studies of the product or the reactant. Then we can use alternate feedstocks for the starting materials. In this case, we can minimize the use of hazardous chemicals. And during every stage, at every stage, we can avoid the use of hazardous chemical. So going green at each step in life cycle we can use. The major uses of green chemistry involves the energy, global change, resource depletion, food supply. Energy means green chemistry is essential in developing alternatives of energy generation, as well as continue the path towards energy efficiency. And concerns for the climate change, global distillation, etc., can be addressed through the development and implementation of green chemistry technologies. Resource, like if we are using, some sources are not renewable, and if we are using continuously and going to waste those resources, we can replace the resources which are not renewable with the renewable resources. Food supply, green chemistry can also address many food supply issues by developing target specific pesticides. As we know that in the case in one of cold drink, that is Pepsi, one day it was claimed that it was having high pesticides. So we can target the use of pesticides, or we can synthesize pesticide with the minimum side effects. Now coming to the examples of green chemistry, we are talking to the antifollants. Some of the antifollants like the follant C9 that was developed by Ron and Haas company, and they replaced TBTO with which was highly effective and has widespread environmental pollutions. So what they did, they replaced this type of TBTO with the C9, and that was synthesized by green chemistry. Now another coming to the pest control, Eden Bioscience Corporation designed messenger by replacing, they replaced the product pest control, which was highly toxic. And what they did, they developed a new pest control with the name of passenger, which is highly environmental friendly. Now coming to the oxidation, like some of the TML containing no toxic groups seek to replace chlorine. Chlorine, as we know that we are having chlorine tablets too, chlorine water too, but after taste it leaves a taste, and that can be noxious too. So what we are doing, we are replacing the chlorine with the iron, iron activators. Similarly, some of the degradable polymers like nylon 6 that is made up of polymers that can be reused, recycled to avoid the hazardous or the pollution to the environment. Now there are so many green chemistry techniques which are used to synthesize the compounds. For example, reaction in alternative solvents, atom economic multi-component reactions, microwave, ultrasonic reactions, and flow reactions. Green chemistry plays an important role in various nanomedicines too, which are synthesized with the green synthesis. Like if we are talking the gold nanoparticle. In this case, nanomaterial was used as gold, and it was clinically used for cancer therapy diagnosis. And the gold nanomaterials were synthesized from the plant extract and the bacteria. And similarly, silver, which was having antimicrobial activity and was obtained from the almond leaves. And some of the research or the students are working on the green chemistry. And similarly, other examples too, Amblyca officinalis, Tamarindus indica, edible mushroom, they can be used for the synthesis of nanoparticles and by replacing the all other particles. Silver nanoparticles can also be synthesized. Indeed, the most simple and direct way to apply green chemistry in pharmaceutical products is to utilize eco-friendly, non-hazardous, reproducible, and efficient solvents and catalysts in the synthesis of drug molecules, drug intermediates, and in researches involving the synthetic chemistry. For example, if we take the example of pyrazine carboxamide, in the original route, the pyrazine carboxamide was synthesized by using 3 steps, and the catalysts were oxalyl chloride and carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide byproducts, and it was taking the high time for the synthesis was very much. But this the pyrazine carboxamide was synthesized by using the green chemistry by Ritter reaction, and the steps were minimized to single step, and all the compounds were replaced, all the hazardous chemicals were replaced. In the short, I would like to conclude that green chemistry has grown from a small idea into a new approach to the scientifically based environmental production. By using green chemistry procedure, one can minimize the waste of materials, maintain the atom economy, and prevent the use of hazardous chemicals. Researchers and pharmaceutical companies need to be encouraged to consider the principle of green chemistry while designing the process and choosing the reagents. Thanks to all. Now
Thank you
session is
so much. Thank you so much, ma'am. This was really very informative talk. If we have any questions, you may ask now. We have a question from ma'am Tasbiha. Please pass the mic.
Thank you, ma'am, for such an insightful talk about green chemistry. You have really very well explained how green chemistry can bring certain advancements in the fields of formulation. Can you please explain that what revolution can green chemistry bring in the field of nanotechnology?
Yes, nanotechnology for the synthesis, like I gave the example of nanoparticles. If we want to synthesize nanoparticle, like gold nanoparticles are synthesized by the original routes through also, but we can replace the synthesis of gold nanoparticles by using the green chemistry. Like we can simply by using the pestle mortar, we can use the extracts, and by using pestle mortar we can use the green chemistry. And by if you're using pestle mortar for this for making of nanoparticle, by in place of using any reagent, or you are using extract for the synthesis of gold nanoparticle, you can easily replace. And I think in today's world it is the main requirement that we should replace harmful chemicals with the green only.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us. We are very honored to have you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Moving towards our next talk, which is about community pharmacists' perspectives regarding the counseling of topical steroids. And for that, our worthy speaker person is Dr. P. Ravi Shankar. Dr. Ravi is a faculty member at IMU Center for Education, Malaysia. He has worked as a professor, associate dean, and curriculum committee chair in several universities during the last 2 decades in Nepal and the Caribbean. He has 743 publications in various national and international journals, and he has reviewed over 800 research papers for various journals. Dr. Ravi is a member of Orchid Researcher Advisory Council, member of TLM Global Counterspace Program, academic editor, PLOS1, and member of editorial board of BMC Medical Education Malaysia. Dr. Ravi has also been a part of ICDS since our first edition in 2021. His pre-conference workshop on research publication was highly appreciated by the participants. Hello, sir. Can you hear me? Sir, please unmute your mic. Sir, your mic is mute. Can you please unmute it?
Okay, now I think I can. Yeah, it was not allowing me. Okay.
How are you, sir?
I'm good. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining. Please, I request you to start your talk.
Yeah, let me share screen. Can you enable that, share screen sharing?
Yes, sir. Please share, sir.
Yeah, I think now it is there. Okay, let me begin to share. Can you see my slides?
Yes, sir, we can see it.
Okay, give me a minute. Let me. Okay, fine. Let me go into full screen. Okay, fine enough. Okay, so thank you for having me. And it's a pleasure to join the second conference. And I would like to thank Ms. Sana for all her help and support. And I was there in the first edition of this conference. So today I'll talk about community pharmacist perspectives regarding the counseling of topical corticosteroids. So this was a work which was actually done by a Master of Public Health student, Abigail Nathan, and I and Dr. Chandrasekhar were the co-supervisor and co-supervisor. So I work at the IMU Center for Education. So what we look at is community pharmacists, and we look at the use of topical corticosteroids. That's one of the areas we look at. Patient concerns. So TCS stands for topical corticosteroids, steroid phobia, overuse, counseling, and patient perspectives. We'll see what all we can address in about 12 minutes. So community pharmacists, as you already know, provide a variety of services. And topical corticosteroids are a common medication that are used in different community pharmacy settings. So that again is something which you already know. And skin conditions are quite common in different countries globally, and they're again quite common in Malaysia. And TCS is used to treat several skin conditions, and their misuse, I think, is quite common, including for different conditions, which I'll briefly talk about. So pharmacists could play an important role in reducing TCS misuse through counseling. And these are some of the parameters which they should address when they're counseling patients. Yeah. So TCS phobia, so there are some people, sometimes TCS is overused. At the other end, there's also phobia about TCS, so it's quite widespread. There's often a confusion between oral and topical steroids. So whenever patients hear the word steroid, they always say it's oral steroids and can be very dangerous. Super potent preparations are marketed, especially by promoted strongly, and they're applied for a fair complexion, as we heard the first speaker talk. They're used for a number of reasons. Over 80% of patients obtain preparations over the counter. This is what the literature says. And only 4% use it after consulting with a dermatologist, which is it's quite an alarming figure. In Malaysia, we have 4 classes of TCS ranging from class 1 to class 4. And in Malaysia, TCS can be dispensed by a pharmacist without a prescription. And this makes the counseling which is provided by the pharmacist very important. Pharmacists are trusted healthcare providers. Variety of studies are shown in different countries. Medication experts ideally placed to counsel patients about TCS. So in this study, we looked at CP's factors. CP stands for community pharmacists, about their views about what is good quality counseling to patients. Issues had to be addressed, challenges, suggestions, and the patient perspective of obtaining counseling from a CP was also studied. I think we're not reporting on that one, maybe. So the methodology, it was done in Malaysia. It was done in the Malaysian state of Selangor, which surrounds Kuala Lumpur, the capital. So Kuala Lumpur and Putrajaya are 2 federal territories. CP is holding a type A license. It's a type of license in Malaysia. And our sample, the final sample size was 364 after considering non-response and dropouts. So the final list was obtained from the government agency in care of responsible for pharmacy. The questionnaire was adapted from the original one developed by Kang et al. Multiple sections A, B, C, and D. So A was mainly demographic. B was the type and time taken to counsel. And section C was, the perception, CP's perception of what patients knew about TCS. And section D was their knowledge about adverse events related to TCS. We pilot tested. Cronbach's alpha was acceptable. These were some of the variables which we looked at. Age, gender, work location, years of experience, education level. The main dependent variable was CP's perception regarding patients' knowledge about TCS. And the counseling practice on a 11 item, 3-point Likert scale was measured. Online questionnaire, so this was during the COVID pandemic. CPs who participated in the online survey were also requested to recruit patients. And the questionnaire for patients was extracted and modified from question 12, the original questionnaire. So participants were instructed to complete the survey after leaving the pharmacy premises. Online, this was for the patients, online questionnaire, and we did multiple comparisons, bivariate, multivariate, and linear regression. And this was approved by the International Medical University, JC. We also carried out in-depth interviews with certain CPs. Transcripts were shared, and the qualitative ones are reported according to the correct checklist. So we were limited by the homogeneity of the CPs, low response to individual interview requests, COVID-19 pandemic, and consequent movement restrictions. Pilot interviews were done. Interviews were conducted online, and only the interviewer and the interviewee were present. And they were audio recorded and transcribed. NVivo 11 software was used. So 364 participants, our response rate was about 70%. And one of the challenges, of course, was the COVID-19 pandemic. So most pharmacies were located in Selangor, which corresponds to the distribution in the population. And we have more chain pharmacies than independent pharmacies. Most pharmacists were trained in adverse drug event reporting. These were the non-prescription, accounted for quite a big percentage of the total sales. Major problems for patients: negative perception, lack of time for counseling, lack of counseling material, and doctors' negative perceptions of pharmacist counseling. What they counseled on were how to use, duration, frequency, choice, adverse drug events, how to use, precautions for storage. So quite a lot of factors were counseled, not all the time. Many of them were done most of the time. And bivariate comparison. So this shows that maybe the age and some of the factors had a correlation with the counseling practice scores of the community pharmacists. I won't go into this in detail, and then we did a multivariate analysis which showed age in years or something which was associated with the counseling practice scores. Training in adverse drug events was again associated, and supply of TCS by pharmacists' recommendation was again connected with the counseling practice scores. Content of counseling, so this was what the patients were told. They were told about multiple aspects from potency, dosage, frequency, duration, what to do when an adverse drug event occurs. The qualitative study, 7 community pharmacists, 3 were male and 5 were of Chinese ethnicity and 4 were practicing in Selangor. Some of the main things, so they said there's no privacy. So because even though there's a counseling area that's not often used, they explain to the patients the pros and cons of using the steroid medication. So they often confuse topical steroid with the oral steroid, and this might be responsible for what I told earlier about steroid phobia. Steroid phobia, they say, is mainly among younger adults who are educated or able to do internet searches, and young parents, especially young educated parents. So some patients want to continue using the steroid. Maybe someone had prescribed or they purchased, they notice some good effects, and then they want to continue, even though there's no indication to continue using the steroid. And some say, some purchase even very potent steroids, maybe on recommendations by friends or relatives, which again could be worrying. Challenges faced, some pharmacists mentioned language barriers because certain customers would prefer to speak only in Chinese. And there are also a lot of expatriates. So they may not be, they might speak only the native language. And sometimes pharmacists are using apps like Google Translate and other things. And some pharmacists, I think, felt that they lack the specialist training for some of the more uncommon skin conditions. Sources of information used, so there's the MIMS, which is available as a smartphone app, material provided by the Malaysian Ministry of Health and the Malaysian Pharmacist Society was used by the pharmacists. And some of them had online groups of colleagues and community pharmacists and others who can support them in getting information. So some said that, maybe there's something called the pharmacist specialized in diabetes. So something like that was suggested for pharmacists specializing in skin conditions, and provide maybe some specific information from the Malaysian Pharmacist Society, counseling guidelines, maybe make it more widely available and more easily accessible by the pharmacists. To conclude, so steroid phobia was noted in some patients. Some patients requested for a specific preparation, which could be more potent. Overuse of TCS was noted, and so pharmacists had lesser, some of them did not have the confidence in treating all skin conditions. So shared management of patients, management guidelines, advanced training in managing skin conditions, use of social media groups among the pharmacists to provide the latest information were recommended. They recommended to provide more hands-on training modules and exposure and support greater collaboration between different healthcare providers, especially between pharmacists and doctors. So larger scale studies. So this is a small study in a specific area of Malaysia. So larger studies in urban, suburban, and rural places of practice would be beneficial. So our study was mainly urban and semi-urban areas. Thank you so much. If there are any questions, then I can take it up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for joining us throughout our ICDS journey. If we have any questions, you may ask now. So we have a question for you, sir. Please pass the mic.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, my question is, do you think the perception of a dermatologist and a pharmacist can differ in counseling a patient?
Yeah, I would have to say yes, because of course the dermatologist would have more specific knowledge about different skin conditions, They look at it from a different angle, because one of the problems is I don't think we have anything. A dermatologist is a specialized medical doctor. So we do not have a corresponding situation in a pharmacist. We have pharmacists who provide pharmacy practice. And like I said, in Malaysia, they've opened the one for diabetes, but we do not have something like that for dermatology. So I believe, yes, the dermatologist will be better able to diagnose. The pharmacist might have more idea about the medicines. So the counseling and the information and the focus might be different. And it's important for both of them to work together, of course. And that's briefly to answer it. Of course, there are so many other aspects to this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. This was really very interesting. And we are always very honored to have you with us throughout our ICDS and in the workshops. Hope to see you again in the next conference.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, sir. Moving towards our next talk, which is going to be about awareness and use of cosmeceuticals among female students of tertiary institution in northeastern Nigeria. And for that, we have a very worthy speaker, Dr. Muhammad T. Baluri. Dr. Baluri is a public health specialist. He did his MBBS from the University of Maduguri and Masters in Public Health degree from Ahmadu Bello University, Nigeria. Dr. Baluri has intensive training in internal medicine covering cardiology, neurology, nephrology, gastroenterology, respiratory medicine, endocrinology, and infectious diseases at the postgraduate level. Dr. Baluri has authored, co-authored, and reviewed many research papers for local and international journals. Dr. Baluri, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me also?
Yes, sir, I can hear you. How are you, sir?
Okay, I'm trying to share my screen. Can you see the screen?
Not right now, sir.
Okay, so, okay. What of now?
Sir, you can share it. Yes, sir, now we can see it.
Okay, that's very good.
Okay, sir, now I
Good
request
morning,
you
all.
to please start the session.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, all. I'm going to give a talk on what she already awareness. Awareness and use of cosmeceuticals among female students of tertiary institution in northeastern Nigeria. Like she said, my name is Dr. Mohamed Tibolori, as she was introduced. This is a research article which was prepared after I was invited to this very prestigious conference. So I would like to register my appreciation, and I'm highly excited to be part of this conference. So right now, as we are talking, this article is not published. So it's going to be published very soon, and I can share the published version of it with those that are interested. So the agenda of my presentation is going to be in the following manner. First, I will start with the background to the study and also talk about the methodology, results, discussions, conclusion, and recommendation, just like in any other research articles. So my single overriding communicative objective is to demonstrate the level of awareness in a tertiary institution and regulation of cosmeceuticals in northeastern Nigeria. That is where I came from. So the expected outcomes, at the end of the talk, I hope to strengthen our curiosity on cosmeceuticals using the findings on the following among female students of a tertiary institution in northeastern Nigeria. as awareness, use of cosmeceuticals, attitude towards cosmeceuticals, regulations of cosmeceuticals in the northeastern region. So, by way of background, the concept of cosmeceutical was first invented by Raymond Reed in 1961. It was further popularized in 1970s. And another article I checked was that Dr. Albert Kligman coined the concept of cosmeceutical in 1984. But Dr. Raymond Reed seems to have coined it first, so maybe this may likely be more true and maybe popularized by Dr. Albert Kligman, as I saw in another article. So the value of cosmeceutical is growing very fast within the personal care industry, because is now currently, as of August 2021, I saw that the market value of cosmeceuticals, that the one that is directly relevant to skin cosmeceuticals cost is up to about 38 billion US dollars, and is estimated to reach up to like $60 billion in 6 years' time, that is in 2016. So it is something that cannot be ignored and is becoming more and more important. So this conference, I think, is timely and is very important. It's going to be contributory to our lives of many. So there is controversy concerning the term cosmeceutical because of the following reasons. The definition is not yet clear-cut to many, and its difference from cosmetic and cosmeceutical agent is more of vague. Regulatory mechanisms are poor as we are talking now. As we can see in the rest of the background, we'll see why it is still poor. So we know that cosmeceuticals are classified. So in this conference, we are talking about the skin production practice and what do you call it, regulations. So I base my research mainly on the skin cosmeceuticals. All the questions I will ask will be on skin cosmeceuticals. So Dr. Albert Kligman defined cosmeceutical as topical preparation that is sold as cosmetic. That's why I call it yellow. Sold is cosmetic, sold as cosmetic, but has performance characteristics that suggest pharmaceutical action. So this tells us that some of the cosmeceuticals that are on sale are actually cosmeceuticals, but people are not aware of that. The sellers, the distributors, or the regulators are not aware. They are products that modify skin function and appearance.
Excuse me, sir. Sorry for the interruption. But we can see your slide number 2. I think it's stuck.
Oh, okay. Can you see now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, are you still see it?
Yes, sir.
Still see it?
Yes.
Good. So, cosmeceuticals are agents that combine the properties of cosmetics as well as pharmaceutical drugs. So they are something that is in between, or can I say they are separate class of their own. So that's why it's still confusing most people. So now cosmetics we know that cosmetics are regulated in most countries, or if not all countries. They are regulated because of quality, safety, and what have you. And pharmaceutical agents are also regulated to ensure safety, efficacy, and quality of the drug ingredients. What about cosmeceutical regulations? The answer we find out after this small talk, but in the literature so far I have not seen. Regulation is the combination of legal, administrative, and technical steps taken by government to control the agent in question. Use of cosmeceutical freely without any form of regulation at personal and public level is now a major problem. People have been having many problems of cancer, kidney failure, skin disorders, and what have you because of the lack of regulation or poor regulation. So some of the common ingredients of cosmeceuticals, I don't think I can go through this, but you can see we have many different cosmeceuticals and their ingredients. You can see sunscreen, antioxidants, hydroxyacid, retinoids, skin agents, botanicals, like the one that is presented by immediate predecessor, peptides, growth factors, moisturizers. So awareness about cosmeceuticals. Current studies, what have seen so far, most people are not aware, unlike the finding in among community pharmacists in Saudi Arabia, when they were asked about the knowledge on sunscreens and moisturizers. It was found out that only 53% of the respondents who are community pharmacists know about sunscreen and 62% know about moisturizers. It means the rest don't know, and these are community pharmacists. They're supposed to enlighten the community. So we have gaps among the community pharmacists. So what can you say about the rest of the ordinary population? Another study among female Saudi university students showed poor knowledge scores for hazards. Even though they are using, we can see the level of usage of cosmeceuticals among the Saudi female students, but see, they don't know about the hazards associated with cosmeceuticals. In 2021, studies among undergraduate students revealed 16%, 52%, and 32% to have excellent, average, and poor knowledge, respectively, about skin whitening products. Of course, you know, skin whitening products, majority of them contain drugs. They are basically cosmeceuticals.
Sorry, sir.
Are you seeing? It's stuck again?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What of now? Can you see?
Yes, sir. I can see now.
I don't know why it's
now,
behaving
yes,
this way.
Sir, you're on the 11th
Okay.
slide. Now I can see it.
Okay. So, like I said, there is a poor knowledge among these. That is also in South Korea. Also, customers who are asked about awareness of cosmeceuticals they have been buying, they don't know about it. The figure was not given, but the message is they don't know about it, or the knowledge is very low. So, about use of cosmeceuticals in a prevalence study carried out among students of Saudi Arabia, it was found that 81% of them use it, and they obtain the products over the counter without prescription. So they buy it the way they want it, they use it the way they want it. So similar study in Pakistan among patients with rosacea in, I think, Fawaz University Teaching Hospital or something like that, affiliated to University of Lahore. They were rosacea patients. On their first visit, they were asked about use of creams and cosmetics. So 33% of them were using potent topical steroids, while 17% used other types of whitening creams exclusively. Remaining 50 were using combination of steroids and other type of whitening creams. Reason for using cosmeceuticals they gave for both the mainly for Saudi students was looking good and superior, and being more acceptable in the society. So there is no any mention of medical care or treatment of any ailment or what have you. Now, here in Africa, a study in Jimma University, Southeast Ethiopia in 2018 revealed that 80.1% of respondents use at least a type of body cosmetic. So when they say cosmetic, until the time now that we started talking about cosmetic in those times means cosmeceutical as well. So when you hear cosmetic, it may be cosmeceutical as well. About 6.6 of the respondents were using toothpaste, lotion, lipstick, and eye makeups. These are also type of cosmeceuticals. Toothpick has fluoride, which is to prevent dental caries, and it's a drug. Adverse effect was experienced by about 19% of the respondents.
Excuse
Attitude, yes, stopped.
Sir, due to the time constraint, we would love to listen it again by you, but as we are running out of time, so can we please proceed toward the question and answer session?
Okay, so I should stop. Okay. Thank you.
Sir, please wind it up. So we'll proceed toward the question.
Okay, I'll wind it up. So, in short, there are as per the regulation, we have so many bodies in most of the countries, Pakistan, Nigeria, US. In US, there is nothing like cosmeceuticals in their regulation. In the in the European Union, they treat cosmeceuticals as cosmetics. In Japan, they treat cosmeceuticals as quasi-drugs. So there's no mention of cosmeceuticals anywhere, including Pakistan, your country. They don't mention cosmeceuticals in their regulation. Even the Pakistan Standards and Quality Control Authority, the regulatory authority of Pakistan, all they didn't mention about cosmeceuticals. So in summary, what I will tell you, I did the research for our state here in Maiduguri. We found out that nobody knew about cosmeceuticals among the students. 70 students were interviewed in a focus group discussion. We probed deep down, but nobody knows about cosmeceuticals. And later, we now found out that we gathered the cosmeceuticals they are using. We checked for the levels. We found out that 68% of them use cosmeceuticals without knowing. And they also, 6 of them, they are using powerful steroids. And also some of them use drugs, purely medical drugs that are prescribed for cosmetic or cosmeceutical reasons. So this is a very bad trend. So about the legal regulatory issue, I asked the senior regulator of the Northeast Zone, comprising of 6 states, including my own. He is completely, or can I say, he has very, very little knowledge about cosmeceuticals. And also the policy book does not contain anything cosmeceuticals, even though he claimed that the drugs are controlled or the creams that are used are controlled. But if you go to the market, you see bleaching cream, all sort of creams freely sold like it's legal, actually not legal. So you can see them in the market, you can see them everywhere, very freely sold, and girls are using it all over the place. 68% of girls using cosmeceuticals without their knowledge. But even this level is lower than what you have in places like Saudi Arabia and other places. So my own conclusion was that our conclusion is our awareness of cosmeceuticals is very poor in northeastern region of Nigeria among users and staff of regulatory agencies. While regulation of cosmeceuticals is not specifically addressed, users are left vulnerable to all hazards associated with cosmeceuticals. So my recommendation, government should take action to enlighten the students about the cosmeceuticals they're using, because it's a major part of their lives, as well as also enlighten the stakeholders and policymakers and implementers concerning cosmeceuticals, so that there should be a change for the better, for better health for all. This is my list of references, and thank you. Shukriya. Thank you.
So much, sir, for joining us throughout our ICDS journey. We are very honored to have you. Now proceeding toward the question and answer sessions. If we have any questions, you may ask now. So we have a question.
Okay.
Hello, sir. Thank you for such an insightful talk. And we have seen the gap that most of the girls in the tertiary institutions are not very well aware of use of cosmeceuticals. So what practical steps at institutional level can we take to make the students aware of the use of cosmeceuticals?
Good, thank you very much. Okay, let me answer your question. So I think the most practical way is I have personally, even though I didn't mention, because I am a public health specialist, I took it upon myself at personal level to see the institution, discuss with the authority. Maybe I'll give a talk immediately in the coming weeks about cosmeceuticals, because I have permission from them before I now went into this research. So I think I'll engage with the institution head and maybe give a lecture or two to the teachers as well as the students, so that they will know about cosmeceuticals and the implications. And then the rest, I think I will share with my Ministry of Health, and they can escalate it to other places. Because what we found out is for the institution, since it's a qualitative study, you cannot generalize it, but common sense will tell you that this is what is, what you can find in the other institutions too.
Okay,
Hope
sir.
I have answered your question.
Thank you so much, sir. We hope to collaborate with you again soon. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Sana.
Our next talk of this session is regulatory frameworks of cosmeceutical marketing challenges and global compliance. And for that, our worthy speaker is Dr. Rajeshwari Kamaseti. Dr. Rajeshwari's experience in formulation product development of solid dosage forms and solubility enhancement techniques. She has more than 15 years of experience in academic research and 2 years of experience in quality assurance of pharmaceuticals, pharmacokinetics, and research methodology. Dr. Rajeshwari has also 8 years of experience as a freelance content writer for pharmaceutical sciences. Hello, ma'am. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yeah, absolutely. I can hear you, Sana. How are you?
I'm fine, ma'am. I'm very honored to see you. So I request you to please start your session.
Thank you so much. Myself, Dr. Rajeshwari from India. I'm a pharmaceutical scientist as well as in the field of cosmeceuticals and cosmetics, formulation and standardization. Uh, Currently, I am in the regulatory department. So today's session, I just wanted to highlight how is the regulatory framework and why is it regulatory framework required for the cosmetics. Uh, I wish you all the best because post COVID we are experiencing so many symptoms and still cosmetics market is in such a boom as like comparable with the pharmaceuticals market also. So most of the manufacturers are like now entering the market for both export and import also. So with this perspective, how best the cosmeceuticals are safe for the current community and what regulatory frameworks are required by the nations, I just wanted to put forward. As we all know that cosmeceuticals are becoming the fastest growing segment of the personal care industry. Why we are including this in the personal care is cosmetics is not only the part of the beauty industry, it is also a part of personal care. So it is moving parallelly along with the pharmaceutical products. And previously, if you go around 50 years, it was a traditional system of development of pharmaceuticals and cosmeceuticals. But very few people are knowing about the way how cosmetics are to be used. Unlike other types of products, because I'm from pharmacy, I just wanted to go for a comparative statements with the medicinal products. Pharmaceutical products are most concerned with the medicinal products also. So unlike other products, like cosmetic products do not need prior regulatory approval before they can be put into the market. But it doesn't mean that, however, they are unregulated, far from it, we just wanted to know cosmetics are also very risky. For that reason, regulatory authorities have come forward and they have given a set of guidelines. Of course, it depends upon the nation's authority who have their own regulations, like North America, US FDA, European Union, Pakistan, India. They have set their own regulations. All over, safety, quality, and efficacy are the prior concerns for any regulatory authority. Three options are here: safety, quality, and regulatory and efficacy. Without proper efficacy, any manufacturer cannot rule the market with simple their by simply launching their products. And we have seen so much of development in the cosmeceutical industry also. One of the important point in 20
Hello? Excuse me, ma'am. I think there's a little glitch in their connectivity. Dr. Rajeshwari, can you hear me? Maybe there is an internet issue. Ma'am, there is a internet issue might be possible, but she's not responding at the moment. Please text her, and if she's not available, so we'll move to our next session. Did she reply? Ma'am, she's not replying at the moment. Okay, so we'll connect with her at some other time, inshallah. Until and unless, now I request Chair of the session, Professor Dr. Shaukat Pervez, to please come on the stage and give his comments regarding our session. Please have a big round of applause for him.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. So I've been asked to give my comments regarding the sessions. So I think the talks and the presentation was really very impressive and very useful for all of us, and especially the first speaker who talked about the use of chemical-based skin whitening. So I 100% agree with him that they have a lot of side effects, and they are somehow carcinogenic. So we have to really consider this point, what he spoke, the first speaker. So I would like to thank all of you, the speakers, and it is very good. It was very honored, and we have got a lot of got information, and it's very interesting topics which you delivered today. And thank you on behalf of the University of Hyderabad. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for coming and joining us. We are very honored to have you with us. Now we are proceeding toward our inaugural session. We are just waiting for our guests. They'll arrive in 10 minutes and we'll start the inaugural session. Thank you so much, sir. And thank you so much, all our worthy guests, for coming here.
Nestle.